Now let's take a look at another internal defense mechanism that is also non-specific. So again, this would be also your second line of defense. Your first line of defense would be your skin and mucous membranes. Your second line of defense is going to be, or will include, a variety of things. We did phagocytosis. Now we're going to look at the natural killer cell. Now, natural killer cells is part of a lymphocyte. So when we remember, go back to learning the blood, and we have your various white blood cells, and we had one that said lymphocytes. Up till now, we've consistently talked about T cells and B cells, or T lymphocytes and B lymphocytes. And there's a third one out there we really didn't spend any time on, and that is a natural killer cell. Okay? Unlike macrophages or neutrophils or dendritic cells, natural killer cells don't phagocytose something. What they do, or what a natural killer cell does, is it comes into physical contact with another cell or another structure, and it kills it that way. So let's look at how it does that. So here we have a picture of a natural killer cell based on this one. Again, this is a lymphocyte, so it kind of looks like a lymphocyte in this case. And what it does is it wanders your body and it looks for cells that do not present as self. Okay? This sounds a little strange. Your body looks at itself two different ways. Is it part of myself or not of myself? And if it's not part of me, then I'm going to attack it and kill it. All right? So if you have type A blood, you have red blood cells that have type A antigen. Cells go around and says, hey, you're supposed to be here. Not so much in this case, but you're supposed to be here, so you're fine. But if it came around something that it came and it looked at a type B antigen, it says, ooh, you are not supposed to be here, so therefore I'm going to attack you. Okay? So that's the difference between self and non-self. Autoimmune disorders is a condition where there is a disturbance, disruption, problem with your body recognizing what is supposed to be there and what is not. So autoimmune basically means it's attacking itself, okay? So what natural killer cells do is it looks for cells or stuff that it doesn't recognize as being itself. Now, all the cells of our body, okay, we will have antigens on its surface that says, hey, time out, I'm supposed to be here, please don't hit me, all right? Please don't kill me, I'm supposed to be here. But let's say a bacteria comes in and a natural killer cell comes around and sees it, or it could be a virus, it could be, or a virus-infected cell, bacteria-infected, tumors, anything like this, and it doesn't recognize it, it ends up killing it. Now, how it recognizes and doesn't recognize it is the surface of that cell has to present an antigen that is from your own body. If it does not present something that it's supposed to be there, it will kill it. Okay? Now, this is true for various infections. Obviously, a bacteria makes sense. It's not supposed to be there. Okay, we're going to kill you. But what about if you're sick and cells are a little bit unhealthy? Well, that'd be like a cancerous cell. If a cell is unhealthy, then the surface antigens change just a little bit. So a natural killer cell comes around and says, ooh, you look familiar, but I really don't recognize you fully, so therefore I'm going to kill you. So you're going to have that with, let's say, cells that have cancer. The natural killer cell doesn't recognize, and therefore it will initiate killing it. Now, it's not very picky. When we look at adaptive immunity, where it's very specific to a certain antigen, COVID-19, okay, we're looking for a very, very specific antigen on this one. what this is doing is it's looking for cells that are considered or called antigen presenting cells, or APC. Okay, an antigen presenting cell is any cell that's presenting an antigen on its surface. Okay, and what it does, if it doesn't find that, then it comes into physical contact with that cell, and instead of engulfing it and phagocytizing it, it actually releases two different things. Okay, it releases perforin and it releases granzyme. Perforin basically perforates the plasma membrane, the cell surface, punches holes in it, okay? And granzymes enter the cell and initiates apoptosis, or self-destruction. Now, why doesn't it just popping the membrane, why don't we just want it to do that? Well, if that cell is infected with a virus, let's say, you don't want to just disrupt the plasma membrane, because now we're releasing virus throughout your body. Think of shutting down the cell with granzymes. So we punch holes in it, granzymes enter, and it turns off the cell. Think of it the same way as shutting down your computer. Okay, there's two ways of shutting it down. You can just hit the power switch or unplug it, and it's boop, it's off. And if you talk to any IT people, they cringe when you say stuff like that. Or you go to your startup menu and you go to shut down, and then your computer goes into a systematic approach of shutting things down. Okay? When you go through the systematic approach of shutting things down, you're not going to have problems with your computer. Okay? Same thing with the cell. You're telling the cell, all right, you've got 5 seconds and you are dead. Shut it down. All right? So all the enzymes and everything else is basically closing shop. So when it does end up rupturing and breaking up, you're not spreading infection around. So perforin perforates, granzymes go into the cell, initiates apoptosis, which is basically a cell shutdown. And what the does a couple different things. It's looking for an antigen presenting cell. So remember on our previous image where we had a cell that we had one of those, okay? That would be an antigen presenting cell, and the antigen presenting cells are going to be macrophages, dendritic cells, some B cells, and they have to present to, we haven't got to it yet, so don't worry about it, but it has to present it to T lymphocytes, which is going to be part of your specific or adaptive immunity. Okay, so we're going to have two different types of immunity, one in this end, one in this end, B cells and T cells, and then we have innate. They all work together. Okay, we just can't separate them out. They work kind of together on this one. Let's see, what else did we want to do on this? And I think that's it for this. Oh, well, that would be an antigen. Oh, one more thing. Put it in, we haven't talked about it. These are in the videos on the adaptive immunity. That little structure that I'm drawing, that looks like that, I call that, it's just a little platform. And we've got that antigen is on here. That goalpost thing that I'm doing, it's called an MHC. And that stands for Major Histocompatibility Complex. We'll get into that under the adaptive immunity videos. Go look at that one. There's going to be MHC type 1 and type 2. We'll worry about those later. So that's it for the natural killer cells. We might do inflammation next or something, so stay tuned.